Hello and welcome back to the Bowtie Bible Guy podcast with the last installment of the Gods of Society series. This is the last installment. Next week will be a wrap-up with our aforementioned special guest. I know I teased the special guest last week, but yeah. Now, I'm not telling you who the special guest is, but I am saying special guest is next week. So be looking for that in next week's podcast. So, this is the the final one. It's been a it's been a long series. This has been a long series that I gotta be real honest, it's quite a longer series than I even thought when I started it was gonna be. But it's been fun for me to dig into these topics, and yeah, and then we'll be able to wrap it up next week. I think probably be about a double length podcast next week. So that very special edition with a very special guest next week. So this week, I want to talk about one of the last gods of society that I see. And this is the god of pleasure and vice. We as a population lived here in the United States until about 30 years ago in a relatively Christian society which held up traditional Christian ideals and morals and traditional liberal, which when I say liberal, I mean valued personal liberties. And those were the core tenets of our However, we really pinpoint this shift about 30 years ago. You can clearly look at society and see this societal shift about 30 years ago. There was something called second wave feminism, which, coupled with the post-hippie movement and the Black Power movement and the LGBT community rights movement, all those coupled together gave us several things. One of their biggest things, which these were all things that cropped out of earlier movements, the Black Power and LGBT rights movement both spawn out of Martin Luther King's civil rights movement. The post-hippies obviously spawn out of the communes and just the hippie lifestyle in the 60s, and second wave feminism was just kind of a byproduct of all this. But this really marked a societal shift away from traditional Christian and liberal values, and really was a push. You'll see this commonly referred to as the sexual revolution, which is pretty accurate, even though it doesn't. It singles out one of the many vices that was really pushed during this whole movement. Using the personal liberties that we had to pursue all kinds of vices, as is clearly condemned in the scriptures: drugs, sexual free-for-all, pornography, violence, all kinds of 100-proof alcohol, and many others. Now, many of these things, okay. Sex was created. This is a topic that a lot of people shy away from, but sex was created by God for between a male with his wife, a man with his wife, and a woman with her husband. It was created for that express purpose, to reproduce. Alcohol, not inherently bad. If you are disciplined enough to be able to moderate your consumption to where you not get drunk, that is not in any way sinful. I know of many people that choose not to drink because they fear that they may not be able to moderate their drinking. That's fine. It's fine if you do occasionally drink, occasionally have a cigar. If you are married and you have sex with your spouse, that is fine. Drugs? Our bodies are temple of God. Don't do drugs. Sex outside of marriage? Not good. And some of the sexual stuff that oftentimes accompanies outside of marriage and oftentimes leads to abortion, that's bad. Pornography, that's bad. Violence, it's really bad. And the 100 proof alcohols, it's a lot. You don't have to consume a lot of it to get drunk. All these things had a plethora of societal consequences that no one that supported these things wants to admit. All these things thrown into the pot have produced the AIDS panic of the 1980s, the rapid spread of other STDs through the sexual free-for-all and all that jazz. The skyrocketing single motherhood rates across all ethnic communities in the U.S., skyrocketing abortion rates, the legalization of abortion for that matter, and just the general consequences of this sexual free-for-all that was blatantly encouraged by this. None of the least of these include the sexual misconduct by both men and women, but more men, that led to the #MeToo movement, which was one part good, but for the most part it was not good because it blamed all the wrong things for the situation of sexual misconduct. Now, this encouraged the second wave feminism. All this encouraged the sexualization of women. It took sexual intercourse from something that was between two loving people, and basically put it in and made it into a transactional thing. Now, when I say the sexualization of women, I mean the move towards blatant immodesty that we have seen and is very prevalent today. I mean, especially me being in high school and people in that are high school and college age, it's crazy how sexually most women and even a lot of men now dress. It's very, very concerning. And even at my high school, the sexual free-for-all and hookup culture that has pervaded it's something that is very, very toxic to be around as a Christian, and has honestly been one of the biggest positives of this year of not being in school 5 days a week, to sort of withdraw and away from that. It's just the culture, thanks to second wave feminism and the sexual revolution around sex, is one that is very toxic. These changes have also contributed to a rise of gang culture in many inner cities. Which has led to increased violence, the opioid crisis that has claimed countless victims, sex trafficking that runs rampant throughout many of these gangs. All these things are incredibly intertwined. It's a bad situation, and it kind of was a bad situation with the mafias and gangs and all that kind of stuff, and was only made worse by this movement. It's just, and then the total lack of respect for law enforcement only strengthens these very, very bad things. And the sex trafficking also leads to something that is very important, and very prevalent, that I want to have a very honest conversation about right here and now. This leads to and really has helped, and in these two things, the rise of sex trafficking has kind of led to the rise of pornography, and the rise in popularity of pornography and the ease of access has led to a very significant rise in sex trafficking. And not only pornography, but also masturbation. Again, as I mentioned, it was about 20, 30 years ago now that the rise of the boom of the internet became very popular. Most people began owning a home computer. Over the past 30 years, we went from clunky home computers to laptops to iPads to now computers that we carry around in our pockets every day. Our cell phones, our smartphones, our beloved smartphones. And this increasing popularity has led to has brought pornography and masturbation into the forefront, and has led to a growing popularity in these things, even among Christians and even among true believers. One study that is often quoted goes something to the effect of 93% of males in this survey admit to having looked at online pornography. And the joke often goes that the other 7% are lying. And this shows a real problem, and one that is very serious. I think that pornography and masturbation, it is easier than ever for young men and even young women to fall into this trap. I hate to admit this, but it is something that even I I am no better than anyone else. I have struggled with this. Not something I'm incredibly proud of. I was introduced in the 5th grade to pornography and masturbation. I was introduced to that in 5th grade. And it is something that has just been a struggle for me. I'm not proud of it, but I have to admit it. And I think that it is, especially in the age of social media, is one of the easiest traps for us to fall into. Yeah, I'm not proud of that, but it's something that I have to admit, because I would not be a fully truthful human if I didn't. I wouldn't be honest with you guys if I didn't admit that. And it's a topic that not a lot of people want to discuss, but I think with as big a problem as I think it can be, and I think it is today, I think more people need to talk about it, which is why I'm talking about it here. And I hope that you guys will show me some grace in this, and if you have anything like that you need to talk about, please reach out. I am here. I am here for you. I want to help you. As someone who escaped that, as someone who still, it is a deeply personal struggle that I still face, and a deeply personal temptation that I still face today. I please reach out, and just reach out. I'm more than happy to talk about it with you. And I know it's tough, but it'll feel a lot better once you talk about it. You know, I mean, all these movements, initially, I have no doubt had good intentions, but you know, the saying goes, the pathway to hell is paved with good intentions, and I think that is very accurate. You know, and this has cheapened a lot of our fundamental societal institutions. It has created overarching societal problems, and ultimately this has gotten us to a society that the ultimate fulfillment in life is who can have the most pleasure. That's the ultimate bar that society holds for who has lived the best life. You know, this really leaves people searching, and they can try all these things, and yet they can still come away from all these things searching. You know, I think that's really the point that I wanted to make with this whole series, is that Jesus is the only way to truly fulfill those longings, those desires, that emptiness that so many of us feel. Jesus is the only way to do that. And I encourage all of you this week, if you see anyone struggling, to share that fact with them. Please, please, please share that fact with them. this is going to be a shorter one, but I packed a lot into this, and I hope that at least one of you will reach out, because this is a conversation that I think even within the Church of Christ really needs to be had, because I think that if we don't have it and we're not careful, a lot of people are going to fall into this. Obviously, next week we're going to wrap everything up with that special guest that I have been teasing. You will find out who that special guest is next week. As always, be sure to like and subscribe and share. And until next week's wrap up, this is a short one. Next week will be a long one. Eddington out.